Yo, what's up, guys? This is Coach Jovan here with the very first episode of this new podcast I'm launching called Weightroom Overtime. And hey, Jovan, why are you doing this? What is Weightroom Overtime all about? Well, let me tell you there, folks. Really what it is for me to, kind of give you guys the new updates and, research development and also different training methods that are currently in our industry when it comes to strength and conditioning, also exercise science, right? So a lot of times, some people get misguided or have misconceptions of exercise and training, and it can really affect your athletes. It could really affect yourself and as a coach, right? What you can do and how you can learn this material. And it's constantly changing over time, right? So somebody that may be a coach for 20 years in soccer, was developed or coached by somebody 20 years prior to him, right? So you kind of get the idea how different evolves and different methods tend to change over time. So that's kind of where it's at. The weight room, obviously there's a lot of training methods in the weight room itself and what you can apply to your athletes and your training, depending on what the situation is too, right? So that's kind of where it all started. So welcome to the first episode. I am excited. I know there is a lot of different topics that I want to talk about, and then also I'd love to get some feedback from you guys to see what different methods or different, training questions you may have when it comes to your own personal training. If you're currently with a coach or whatever may be, currently playing a sport or multiple sports, right? So yeah, that's kind of what I want to get some feedback from you guys. But hey, welcome to the first episode. I am your host, and eventually I would like to get some people in as well, different athletes, to kind of get their perspective in training and what they, have done in their lifetime, right? So quickly, a little bit about me is really, hey, Jovan, why are you so certified to do this, right? So I've been training athletes for a long time. Ever since I left high school, I've been training little kids and it kind of developed into, the amateur setting when it comes to professional soccer, right? So I have dealt with a lot of athletes. Currently live in Tucson, Arizona. I'm a graduate student as well, studying exercise science, specifically in strength and conditioning. So CSES, when it comes to certified personal training, corrective exercise, you name it, right? So I've studied it, and I'm just here to help people, really what it is, especially athletes. You probably heard this a million times, and you could take it from me or take it from wherever you want, but if I know what I know now when I was an athlete or a young athlete or a young boy training, I can just imagine where I could have been, right? So that's kind of what I want to portray back to, my viewers and parents specifically, in regards to training and what you should do, right? So without further ado, let's get to the first topic, as you might be interested, right? So this is going to pertain a lot to parents and maybe young athletes that are currently, in the space of the teenage years, high school, etc., right? Parents, if you have kids today, right? And I'm a parent myself. I have two beautiful daughters. And now, I can prepare them for later in life. So my question is to the parents, as you can see the topic of the video, what you should do in this situation, right? So you have, your athletes, your kids, right? Should they train in multiple sports early on? And I'm talking about, as far as like 6 years, 7 years old, 8, 9, 10, 11, you get it, young age. And then also the other question is, should they train one specific sport, right? So that's kind of the controversy in regards to today's topic is, should they play multiple sports early on, or should they just stick to one single sport, right? So that's the theory of the question today, and my goal is to kind of educate you guys a little bit in what's going on when it comes to the science part of it. So without further ado, I just want to give you guys a quick rundown. So myself, I was a one sport athlete my whole life, right? My dad played soccer, kind of introduced me early on, and it stuck with me. I ended up playing, college, club ball, you name it, even amateur a little bit. And I think my situation is a little bit different, and hopefully I'm touching a lot of parents in the lower income families, because a lot of times you can't hire a trainer, right? Your parents don't have money. I came from a, low income family at the time. And then, they couldn't even take me to practice sometimes because they were working all the time. So they could hardly even afford a trainer. So this is my goal to you guys is to kind of educate you guys on this question, right? So research says a lot of the times that when you have athletes that train in multiple sports early on, gives them a better development and foundation early on rather than sticking to one sport, right? So what does that mean, right? So me as a strength and conditioning coach, or even if you talk to other strength and conditioning coach at universities and stuff like that, they will 10 times, more likely would like to have an athlete that played multiple sports. So maybe basketball, little league baseball, soccer, swimming, gymnastics, whatever it may be, right? Rather than somebody that just played football all their life, right? And the reason is because your motor skills as a kid tend to develop a little bit better because of the different movements that are being introduced early on, rather than, for example, soccer, it's all repetitive kicking, right? So now you can think about some of the research that has come out on some of these kids is when you have a kid playing at, let's say, 7 years old, right? And they say about peak time from when you start a sport or training for a sport is about 7 to 8, 10 years maybe, depending on the situation and the athlete, right? So think about it this way, right? You start at 7, roughly at 14, 15 is when you're peaking. That athlete is peaking, and whether your goal is to get that kid to the Olympics, right, or at U17s or U16s, right, or even a varsity team in soccer, he's going to peak at that age, and you're going to see a decline over time of the athlete's performance. And the reason is because it's just so much overuse of that athlete, right? So if you have a young soccer player, right, very good, and a lot of times you see this where they peak at an early age and then tend to fall off kind of after high school or after college because they played that sport for too long. And granted, hey, there's some athletes that have done that and played pros or whatever. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm just saying majority of the athletes tend to last longer if they specialize in a specific sport, kind of during the pubertal age, right? So when they're going through puberty, their body changes. When they're young kids, they're still developing, so you still want them to move in different directions. Whether that's basketball, they're jumping, right? Learning how to jump, proper landing mechanics, for example. You get it, right? So what I'm saying is, you as a parent, do you guys already have your kids in a specific sport, or do you have them play multiple sports? Sometimes high school gives that opportunity to play, sports in the fall, in the winter, and the spring. I would recommend having your kids play all three. If maybe one of them sticks after all, but early on, right? So you also, the way I see it and the way me and my wife sees it for our kids is we don't want to stick them to one sport, to give them the opportunity to learn about the other movements, learn about the other sports, right? Maybe they won't even stick. I've talked to so many athletes, talked to so many kids where their parents are kind of forcing them to play that because that's kind of what they played. Yes, I would love my daughters to play soccer, but ultimately it's I want the best for them when it comes to long term of the sport. I'd rather have them play a sport, longer in life rather than just one and be done at 20, right? You kind of see that and you kind of get what I'm saying, where a lot of these athletes, after high school or after college, they don't play, at a competitive level at that point, right? So think about it this way. If you're looking for your athlete to have a college scholarship, right? So your whole goal is to, hey, I want to get my kid to play college. You may want to start kind of in their puberty age, so 13, 14, 15. Start hiring a trainer or start hiring a specific sport coach to be able to have them peak at that certain time of the high school year. Maybe their senior year, you need to have him at one of his best or leading up to his best years, to be able to perform not only his high school senior year to get that scholarship, but then also perform at the college level, because we would hate for him to peak at senior year and then his freshman and sophomore year suck, right? And kind of gets kicked off the team. That's what you don't want. But usually when you get to the college setting, you have a strength and conditioning coach for the most part that can help develop that athlete even further, right? So that's kind of what I do. I help develop athletes now when it comes to a specific sport, and it could be all sports. Yes, my specialty is soccer because that's what I played most of my life, so I understand it very well, and the different movements of soccer and what it requires. But hey, there's always room to grow. There's always room to last, right? So yeah, that's some of the things. The other thing I wanted to talk about was a program, right? So I would recommend everyone now to have a program, even if you're a parent, even if you're an athlete, a starting athlete, you should be on some type of program. Younger athletes, since that's the topic of the video, I would recommend right now probably more body weight exercises than anything. Again, they're still growing, their bones are still growing, and you want them to be able to move in different directions is kind of what I'm getting at. before you start adding a lot of weight into their joints because they're still growing, right? So that was the topic of the video. I'd love to get some feedback. Parents, let me know what sports your kids are playing on and what age they started and how that's going thus far, right? So also, hopefully I helped you guys kind of uncover or answer some questions in regards to, hey, I'm thinking about hiring a coach now on a specific sport. Hey, that's all great, but also understand what your goals are for your specific daughter or son. Is it to peak at an early age, or do you want to last longer in the sport or play sports after even high school or college, right? So I would think about that before you kind of hire a coach. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying there's some great coaches out there. Just make sure that they understand some of the training methods and research that's been out on this specific topic, because again, it changes all the time. And if you're interested in more, I know I can help you out with a lot of those questions. Feel free to send me a direct message. You can also email me. I'll put the email in the description. But that's kind of the topic of the video. I know they're going to be a little bit shorter initially as we grow the channel. Also, let me know in the comment section what you guys want to talk about next. This could be anything from regular exercise, postpartum. It could be elderly or master's level, where people are generally older and training. How do how does it affect your daily living activities, as far as like getting out of bed, using the restroom, etc., right? There's different things we can talk about. Let me know what you're currently struggling with. Maybe some motivators, maybe what's lacking when it comes to exercise in your specific life, to see if we can help, and I will get the best research out there for you and see what we can do. But without further ado, please like, comment, subscribe. There's more coming, I promise. And you know what? Thank you for tuning in to the first episode. You guys are lucky. I appreciate you all, and take care and stay safe. Thanks, guys.